Welcome to Amazon Legends, where we have real stories about making it big on Amazon. Our guests are CEOs of large companies and entrepreneurs who became power sellers, also providers specializing in helping sellers, aggregators that acquire sellers, and former Amazonians will give us an insight from behind the scenes. Here is your host, Nick Urison.
Welcome to another episode of Amazon Legends. My next guest today is a veteran of e-commerce. My notes tell me that he spent decades, not years, decades, in building not businesses, but e-commerce businesses. So he's seen it all, and he's obviously lived through the entire e-commerce revolution and made it successful. Today, he is the founder of Market Share Growth, which is an Amazon profit growth agency. That's the expertise they bring in. So they're focused on profits. And when he's not working, he has two teenage kids, and they are both athletes, so he's very much into sports. So with that, everybody, meet my guest, David Dwek. Welcome to the show, David.
Thank you so much for having me.
You know, when I meet people like you who have spent decades in e-commerce industry, you know, it's one thing to really, for us, to say, you know, we presided over the entire technology revolution. Because if you go back, there was no internet, and then internet became part of our lives, and now without it, forget it. Nothing works. I mean, imagine not having a smartphone. But my point is, inside that technology revolution, there is also an e-commerce revolution, right? So that alone is a huge deal. And I still, like yesterday, I remember the days where people were afraid to put their credit cards in, and today they can't wait. They can't wait to do it. For my listeners, I want to set up this conversation because this happens to be one of my favorite subject matters, which makes a direct impact in a business, profit, sales, their cash, everything. So today we're going to discuss improving conversion rates on Amazon by using AI, and specifically ChatGPT and data. So this is something that you don't want to miss a minute of, because every minute of it, we're going to do our best to give actionable tips that you can take right after the episode and apply, and then see the impact. And hopefully it will work for you. So with that setup, David, so let's jump right in. So first of all, ChatGPT. What version of the ChatGPT? Is this for someone who can just go type it in and then type their question, or what is the kind of configuration they're going to need for this?
Well, you would need 4.0 so that you can import your spreadsheet. But otherwise, you know, it's fairly simple. And, you know, a lot of ChatGPT, you know, people talk a lot about prompts and how important prompts are. But the value of ChatGPT is you can really engage with it. It's not a single solution. You know, you put in a request, you get the response, you see what you get, and then you say, oh, well, let's look at this from a different perspective. You know, let's segment it this way. Let's identify what are some of the issues. And then you look at the data again, and you get very different results. Okay. And so essentially what ChatGPT is it's like having a data analyst right at your fingertips who can do all the stuff right away. And you get results immediately, and then you can sort of validate or question or probe further.
Okay. So ChatGPT 4.0 is what they're going to need.
Yes.
And then they are importing, the next question is, what data?
So a lot of what we do is, so let's just sort of back up for a minute and just kind of look at the whole picture. You know, you mentioned a few times how old I am, but one of the values of my age is that I've been through the life cycle of e-commerce. Okay, so when I was first advertising on Google, it was 5 cents a click, and then it went to 25 cents, and then it went to $1, and then it went to $5. And so you see this evolution of a media. And the exact same thing is happening with Amazon. And so initially everything is really cheap and really, really easy, and conversion is great, and the competition is not there. And then suddenly everybody discovers, wow, this is a great way to make money. And so you have to change your paradigm. And the reality is the paradigm that worked last year is probably not working as well this year. And so we always have to change and adjust. And I've learned that from working with e-commerce and with Google. And the exact same thing applies to what we're doing with Amazon today. And so the secret really, and let's actually talk about some of the issues, because I think that they're interesting. I think all Amazon sellers are at an inflection point right now. And there's 3 fundamental reasons for this. The first is what I call the Chinese invasion. You've got the Chinese manufacturers, they identify a bestseller, they produce it for less or low quality. They can sell it for less because they don't have any product development cost. And now, Chinese sellers are about 60% of all Seller Central business. The second issue really is ad costs. So many businesses built their whole business upon advertising. And because Amazon's conversion was so strong, and because you also got ranking value, people stuck with advertising for a long time. But what I'm finding for most of my clients is it's just not as profitable as it was anymore. And so again, we need to look for different things. And the third piece of the puzzle is artificial intelligence. And Amazon is really leveraging the power of AI to try to build a better customer experience. And so in many respects, keyword research, which we spent hours and hours of our time doing, is probably going to go away. Amazon more than likely is going to give a personalized experience so that you see different search results than I do based upon your shopping history. So all the things that really we have been successful with in the past have to change. And so what's the solution? Focus on conversion and customer experience. And really this is all about, improving your conversion, and that's going to be the secret to thriving, in the future. And so what we've done is built a methodology around that to sort of help people do it in a rational and logical way.
Okay, so let's quickly recap on this, because there's a couple of things here that are kind of interconnected. So Chinese invasion that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So that is increasing the competition by introducing similar items at a lower price point, right?
Yes.
So, okay, how does conversion help to compete with people like this? The way I see it is you now have to create a product that communicates the value of it rather than the price of it. And therefore, your conversion is going to be driven by how well your content is communicating that value, right?
Exactly. And the reality is it's very, very difficult for anyone to attack your position if you have a high conversion rate. Okay, search rankings are based on conversion. If you have a 30% conversion rate, you're going to be in the top 3, no matter what. Okay, if you're in the top 3, you're going to be driving traffic and you're going to be driving sales. And what we really do is to us, the secret of conversion is really listening to the customer and leveraging customer reviews so you can really understand what's going on. Why are they buying the product? What do they like about it? How can you segment your audience because match your content to what that audience needs. So what we do is we import customer reviews and we put them in ChatGPT and we evaluate them. And we look at what people like and what people don't like. Okay, and then we begin to ask questions. So let's say, for example, you're selling a dog ball. Okay, if you look at a review for a dog ball, invariably what's going to happen is is some people are going to say, oh, this ball lasts forever. And the biggest complaint is this ball doesn't last for 15 minutes. Okay, so typically you have two completely opposite results. And so what you need to do is you then go back into the data and you say, okay, let's look at it by segmented. Let's segment it by dog type. Are we getting different results for big dogs versus little dogs, or for certain breeds versus other breeds? And so we now can begin to build a profile. So for example, if you could then create an infographic and say, hey, the following breeds have given our product 5 stars, then it immediately tells the person who looks at the page, oh, I have a poodle. Poodle thinks it's a 5-star. This product is good for me. Let me buy it. And so what we're really doing is leveraging what the customer is telling us so that we're creating a better customer experience. And we're giving people confidence if they fit within that category, this is the right product for me.
Okay. So the data is the reviews.
Correct. So we use a Helium 10, we pull the reviews off that, we put them into ChatGPT, and then we basically ask them a bunch of questions, identify what are the pain points, what are the benefits, and it invariably will give us something that's intriguing but not complete.
Okay, so to walk through this, so when you export the reviews from through Helium 10, are you selecting all time, or are you selecting, what is the time frame that you're selecting for the reviews?
Basically the most recent, because you want the most recent reviews.
Okay, and are you picking all the reviews, or
yes,
3
anything
and
you
up?
can get.
Everything.
Anything you can get, because typically what you'll see is less than 5% of the people that give a review write a review. Okay, so most of the reviews are just stars. Okay, and the other thing that's sort of interesting is when you look at the written reviews, the average rating for the written reviews is usually a whole point below the regular. So if on your product you have a 4.7, when you look only at the written reviews, it's probably going to be a 3.7. Okay, so you're getting more negative than positive. But again, it just gives you real insight into what customers are concerned about.
Okay, so you export all the reviews, because you can separate it 3 stars and up and 1 to 3. Usually when I'm not through AI, but when I'm doing the analysis to see some key phrases, I always select 4 and 5, and then 1 to 3 I select as 2 separate sets to get a sense of what is the negative sentiments and what are the positive sentiments. In
Right.
your case, you just take everything and then dump it all in ChatGPT.
Right, and then you can always go back and segment it and tell ChatGPT, just look at my 3-star reviews or 4-star reviews. Or you could say, just look at my bad reviews. Because the review can give you a lot of data. In some cases, it tells you about variations as well. You can organize it by variation. In some cases, it'll actually tell you what country it came from. You can organize it by the country, and you can actually, you can do it yourself manually on an Excel spreadsheet, or you can just have ChatGPT do it for you, and it just doesn't take that much time.
Okay, so now that we've got the data loaded, what is the approach? What is the methodology to be able to go back and make some adjustments to the listing?
What we're looking for is what are the key benefits and what are the key pain points. Okay, and I also like to ask for, how are people using the product? Are they, what types of projects are they using the product for? So that we can begin to sort of segment. And once you get the data, then you can begin to say, okay, well, let's what if we organized it this way? What happens? If we organize it by dog breed, what happens? What if we organize it by, is the person using it to pay cat inside or outside? What patterns are we seeing that we can dig into to give us better insight into what customers like or they don't like? And how can we identify those groups so that because really, typically what we'll do is when we're creating, a product title, we'll say, oh, dog ball, it's good for small, medium, and large dogs, because we want to make it seem like it's good for everyone. Okay.
Sure.
The reality is, if it's really better for big dogs, then say, dog ball, the perfect ball for big dogs, including, Labradors, Great Danes, etc. That's going to really drive conversion. And so much of our focus is upon driving search volume. Well, search volume doesn't do you a whole lot of good if you don't convert. And that's the pattern that we're getting into. We're looking at quantity versus quality.
Okay, so when you load up the data, you are simply asking what is the best use of this and how do people use it, categorize it, because that would drive your content in terms of your bullets, your pictures, so you can show the lifestyle pictures, etc. Showing people.
You want to connect the usage with the ratings. Okay, so if I'm using it for, let me give you another example. That's a perfect example of this. We were looking recently at paint. Okay, and so we looked through the reviews of the paint, and we discovered that a lot of people were complaining about the quality of the paint. They said, it's streaked, or it didn't dry quickly, and that didn't really make a whole lot of sense. So we sort of dug into it, and we looked at the data, and the first thing we noticed is a lot of people using this paint are novices, not experts. Okay, and so that got me wondering, well, maybe it's because they're not using it properly. Okay, and so we had ChatGPT tell us about the relationship between stars and the surface that they're using. Okay, and we found that certain surfaces got 5 stars and certain surfaces got 1 star. And we realized that these people who are novice painters were using it on some, things like styrofoam, which it wasn't designed for, which is why they didn't like it. And so this allowed us to create a chart that said this is a recommended surface and this is a non-recommended surface. And in fact, if you use this surface, you should be using in this product. Okay, and so if you are painting on a recommended surface, now you have confidence because you're inexperienced that this is the right paint for you. And so what we're doing is we're using the data to sort of help the people make the best choice.
I see. Okay. So the way to get ChatGPT to tell you is give me the uses that people are happy with this product, give me the uses that people are not happy with. So that way you have an understanding of the content that you can provide to support that.
Correct. Or you do it, or you say, fine, give me the uses, and then what's the rating for those uses? Okay, and then you see, well, hey, maybe within those uses, we need to break it down even further. And it's really a question of how do I identify what's the root cause? What's driving, satisfaction, and what's driving dissatisfaction, and how can we address those to improve conversion rates?
Okay. All right. So good. So the usage, the use areas.
Typically, you're going to look at use areas and you're going to use the customer segments.
Yeah, customer segments. So give us some examples of how you go about segmenting the customers.
So one example of the segmenting was with the dog balls, different breeds of dogs.
I see. Okay.
So what you're doing is you're saying, how can we define, the audience, because again, if you're buying a dog ball, you presumably own a dog. And so the question is, does that type of dog make a difference? And how does that change the way we're presenting the page?
So David, have you ever tried like asking point blank, give me the customer avatar based on these reviews that for my product?
Yes, and you get okay results, but the secret really is at the top and the bottom. Okay, because the difference between the top and the bottom is dramatic. And so what you end up is getting, it's like, you can't be half pregnant. You're pregnant or you're not. Okay, and so by isolating them and separating them, that's when you really get the information you need. We're not looking at the average. Average doesn't help us. We're looking at who are the the satisfied customers, how can we get more of them who are dissatisfied? How can we deal with them? Either, recommending something else or, because, one thing that's really clear about Amazon, and I have a number of clients that have, return rates of 20%. You can't run a profitable business with 20% conversions, with 20% returns. So you want to sell to the people who are going to get the most value from your product.
Okay. So really, you're creating two avatars almost, where satisfied customer avatar, what they look like, and dissatisfied customer avatar. And then one of my favorite sayings is accentuate the positive, eliminate the negative. So you are gonna do exactly that with the pictures and the infographics and okay. So that's a very this is what you call a data-driven approach, right? So,
exactly. And we found that the brands that we partner with, they're seeing increased conversion rates of 10 to 20%. Because again, we're simply listening to the customer. This is not rocket science. The customer is telling us what to do. We are interpreting what they say, and we are testing it on the page and validating whether, our hypothesis of this qualitative data is actually results in improved conversion.
okay. Because frankly, at the beginning of the conversation, when I introduced the subject, I was expecting, especially after you mentioned Excel sheets or data, I'm like thinking, okay, we're gonna load up the conversion rates and blah blah blah, but did nothing to do with that. You're not looking at those numbers.
No.
Okay,
No.
it's all about what the reviews are telling.
What's the customer telling us? Yes.
Yeah. So how much is enough? In other words, if you have 3 reviews, that's not gonna do much. So what is the threshold in order to get the most out of this approach?
I would say 300 to 500. Okay, so but you need a fairly large number of reviews to be having 300 to 500. And the thing that's sort of interesting, and I don't quite understand why, but Helium 10 is not able to access all of the reviews. Typically, they're only getting about 60% of the written reviews that Amazon has. And I'm not sure if that's an expense thing with Helium 10 or it's a limitation that Amazon imposes. But so if you had 1,000 written reviews, you probably would only have access to about 600 through Helium 10.
Okay. And if somebody has 300 reviews, Helium 10 will give you all
Probably
300 or
200.
200. Okay. So, okay, what options are available for those who don't have that number of reviews?
Well, if you have 100 reviews, you can draw some basic conclusions to test. Okay. If you don't, it's going to be difficult. Again, the more reviews that you have, the easier it is to segment because you now have, larger groups of subgroups. So, if you have fewer than 100 written reviews, you're not going to get enough data to really be able to get a good sense. But the more reviews you have, the more data you have, the more you can really hone in on it, and the more segmented you can get. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't draw some basic conclusions and test it. Now, actually, there's another alternative, and that is go to your competitor. Take their reviews, look at their reviews, and see what their customers are saying. And say, hey, I'm selling the same thing they are. I'm also selling a dog ball. They have, 20,000 reviews. I have 100. Well, what are they saying? And how do I put that on my page?
Okay. So that's the smartest way to do it. If you don't have enough, especially if you're just launching it.
Correct.
And in fact, this is something you can do before you launch. You
Absolutely.
and then you simply ask, give me the best position for me to compete with this listing, right?
Correct. So, and again, a lot of it depends upon where the life cycle of the product is. Okay. So if you have a more mature product, okay, then you want to say, okay, how can we leverage what we have already? If you have a product where competition is the key, okay, so for example, you were talking about, the Chinese invasion. Well, then you can perform the same exercise, but just using the competitors instead of you, and say, well, how are the difference between what we're seeing with their reviews and what they're seeing with my reviews? And is it a different customer or is it the same customer? So yes, doing it from a competitive standpoint is a really useful way of doing it as well.
Okay. And in your opinion, and in your experience doing this, what is more impactful after doing these reviews? Because ultimately, the whole idea here is to revise your content, right?
Yes.
So what is that look like? What does that look like? Is it pictures, videos, or the bullets, A plus? I mean, of course, all of the above, but what is making the most impact?
Well, I think, clearly your product title and your main image are the things that are going to make the most impact. Again, it's a question in terms of what problem have you identified and how do you want to present that problem. We use a lot of infographics, in the images, especially because, most of the traffic these days is coming through mobile, and you want to create the right mobile experience. And so, we really believe that infographics have a huge impact, because people tend to see them early, especially in the mobile experience. But the idea here is so our hypothesis is, and based on my experience, most people don't really understand their products. Okay, they understand the functionality of the products. Sellers sell features, customers buy solutions. And if you understand the solutions, then you can modify the way your product is presented to address those solutions. And so the real benefit of this is the light bulb goes off. And so people say, oh, this is how people are using my product. This is what's really going on. And now the whole way I think about it changes. And that's the real value of it. It's connecting you to the customer, and it's making you a lot smarter and making better decisions.
Okay. Now there is another way. I mean, we never really brought advertising into this. So what you can do is, because today you have brand video,
Yes.
right? So brand videos, and you also have sponsored display.
Yes.
So, and the Amazon has introduced already, it's recent as we record this in April of 2024, vertical videos for mobile, because half the usage is in mobile.
Right.
So therefore, the strengths that you have, as described by your customers, you can create brand videos.
Absolutely.
And also get your influencers to do the same, and use have the Amazon Creator Program participants upload videos all about whatever your customers are telling you, because that's going to promote the strengths of your product throughout the whole marketplace, right?
It opens up an infinite number of possibilities once you understand your product. Listen, I mean, companies have been running focus groups for years and years and years, and all we're doing, this is really a focus group. We're using reviews as a focus group.
Yeah, when you look at it like that, that's exactly it. So you're taking, and by the way, when you have a focus group, you get like 10, 12 people in a room, right? Here, you're getting hundreds of people in a room.
Correct. Now, with the focus group, you can actually ask them follow-up questions. Here, you just have to use the data and understand the data. But yes, but it gives you some incredible insights. And once you think about the product in that different way, suddenly all these possibilities, just like what you did, open up. And it becomes really exciting.
I have a question for my listeners. Are you experiencing cash flow challenges with your Amazon business? Well, silly question. Who is not, right? So let me introduce you to Viably, a unique solution tailored for Amazon sellers and e-commerce enterprises. By connecting your Seller Central or Shopify account, you can promptly access funding along with a variety of financial tools, all for a flat fee. It's as simple as that. And for my listeners, they are offering an extra $1,500 in funding for eligible applications. Start your quick and easy application today at runviably.com/legends. And that's runviably.com/legends. Okay. So, one of the things, I've always been, I don't know why, but, I have tech background, but I always gravitated towards data. So I find it fascinating that, numbers are always telling you objectively what you should be seeing. But one of my challenges was always people would say to me, okay, how do I use it? What do I do with it, right? So we have now put the two together in terms of what data. First of all, what is the source data? And that's review. And the minimum requirement is 300 and up. And if you don't have that, go take your competitors so that you can define what it is. And then turn that data into two avatars, one that gives you your best customer that's most satisfied and how are they using it.
Yes.
Break it down. And then also the ones that are dissatisfied and then define why they are dissatisfied.
Yes.
So now that is the process data. Okay, now we want to, what do we do with it, right? So that's the ultimate question. What you do with it is whatever people are happy with.
Yes.
Yeah, improve your content, run advertising based on what you are good at, and immediately take action to remedy the dissatisfaction reasons. So that way you have. And I mean, I've recently come into contact with some people who are using the Amazon Creator Program. And that's like, if you go to your product detail page and scroll down right at the bottom, anybody can upload a video.
Yes.
So you can have all kinds of videos just telling the story of how people are using your product. And you don't really need to sell. You just simply show how people are using the product, right?
And the idea is you want to connect with, because if you're looking for something for this reason, and you see this on the page, you're going to be confident that this is the right product for you. And that's why it's going to improve conversion.
So, David, can you then share with us some, as they say, case studies, for example, some specifics that you've done where conversion rate was X and then it became Y, and then describe the actions that you took. That would people would identify with that.
Sure. So, I mean, one other benefit also of ChatGPT is once you've uploaded all this data, okay, and once you've identified what are the key issues, ChatGPT will actually give you either copy or description of what the infographic should be like, or some of the creative elements as well, which also allows you to dramatically reduce your time. So, for example, you can then take the reviews and you can say, okay, based upon this information and focusing on this, write me a new product title. Okay, and so it writes you the product title again, and again, always when because typically product titles are going to be more keyword focused. And so we say, write me a product title that's really going to focus on driving click-through and conversion, as opposed to worrying about keywords. And we've done that. We've seen, dramatic improvements in just by changing the title, leveraging the opportunities with ChatGPT.
So what kind of an impact does the title make in terms of conversion?
It can be, well, see, it's not actually exclusively because of conversion. It's also the click-through. So is it driving, is increasing your click? So it's basically a double whammy. So ideally, what you want to do is you want to increase your click-through rate. At the same time, you want
Right.
to increase your conversion. And a lot of it comes from once you've identified the segments. Okay, so again, if we go back to the dog ball example, okay, and if we say, hey, this actually product is better for big dogs than small dogs, and everyone else says dog ball for big, medium, large, okay, and yours says for a big dog, so you're going to drive more people who are appropriate to you. They're much more likely to convert, and it's a win-win, and you're
Yeah.
standing out.
And what you're doing also is, David, you're making the traffic relevant, right? And
Exactly.
that's the biggest part. So I always say this, how do you increase conversion? There are two ways, I should say, two strategies to drive conversion, to improve conversion. One is make the page, your PDP content relevant, so
Yes.
that when people land on the page, they connect with it and then they say, okay, this is for me. I mean, of course, you need to reviews and all that stuff, but ultimately, it's your content that's making the sale. The other strategy is to eliminate the irrelevant traffic, right? So,
Yes.
and what you are suggesting is when ChatGPT gives you who uses this product in a way that they are satisfied, you put that in the title, you are automatically going to have people clicking through the listing that are for that product and that are likely to be satisfied with, right?
And would give you good reviews, and you eliminate the bad review people, and so your reviews go up. So it's a complete win-win. And once they're satisfied, they're more likely to buy again, which is really the key to Amazon. We talk all about acquisition, but it's really about once we create a satisfied customer, we're much more likely to get repeat business. So,
Yeah,
ultimately, that's what's going to drive your profitability down the road.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, and also, the other thing here, nothing to do with conversion, but what you just said is something that we've experienced where you would experience things that you would not think of on Amazon
Mhm.
because of the millions and millions of people. What I'm getting at is I have a client and they have a very high ticket item,
Mhm.
and I'm talking like $700.
Okay.
And they have two types, $700 one and about $450 the other. And at the very beginning, they came to me and they said, do you think there's market for this on Amazon?
Sure.
And I said, there's market for anything, doesn't matter what it is.
Right.
So they were kind of, open to the idea, and then we started doing it. Only yesterday, we were looking at the numbers.
Mhm.
And guess what? 12% of their entire sales came from B2B that
Mhm.
spent an average of $1,100 per
Wow.
order.
Mhm.
And this is without having a B2B price or any, they just have their profile
Right.
established, which is necessary for B2B. I don't mean B2B profile, I mean a seller profile.
Yes. Yes.
That's
Yes.
all they had.
Mhm.
So anything is possible on Amazon as long as you make it relevant. So there is a market for everything. You just have to connect with that market. And that's what we had done. And the results are phenomenal in terms of ACOS. Like, just to give you uh, an idea, their ACOS is running at like 10%. It's like on a $700 item, a
Yeah,
10%
but
ACOS.
actually, it makes a lot of sense because what's happening is the price is self-selecting people. Okay,
Right.
so 90% of the people will not click on the ad because it's $700. But if you do click on the ad, then you know it's $700. So there's a really good chance. So it actually makes sense that you're so profitable.
You know, there is something else.
Mhm.
You're gonna laugh now. Have a wild guess what their conversion rate is.
25%.
2 to 3%.
Oh, really? Wow, that surprises me.
Because it's a very high ticket item.
Mhm.
So the number of people that land on it, obviously not every one of them. So, I mean, that's their average version. Of course, when you hone in on, like, they have different colors on those two
Mhm.
different types.
Yes.
Types are basically sizes, how much it covers. And then they have like 4 or 5 different colors each. And some of them do very well. They do like 8, 9, 10%, but no, you don't see 20%, 30%, no way,
Wow.
because it's a high ticket item.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's at the end of the day, what you said right at the beginning, as you set up the whole conversation, is why are they buying your product?
Mhm.
If you understand that, and then you put that in your content in terms of your pictures, your title to your main product picture to uh, support the click-through rate for the right kind of traffic, and then you bring it in, it's going to happen. But this is something else.
Then the other thing I also noticed is, if you put stuff on, so the things that really annoy customers more than anything is when something is not on the page. So for example, if you're selling a vase and the vase, is 3 inches tall, and you can't tell how big the vase is from the picture. And so if you don't put information that, showing the vase as relative size, you're going to get a lot of complaints about the size. But if you have that information on the page, you don't get the complaints anymore because the customer realizes, oh, it was my fault. I didn't look at the thing. I was lazy.
Yeah. On that, there is something else that I always recommend, and we do that with my clients, is it's not enough to show the size of whatever you're selling in dimensions, in terms of, inches or whatever, because people don't understand it.
Right.
So always put a reference picture,
Yes.
like, for example, a quarter or a battery or something like that, to show the size of it. So that way people can say, oh, this is how small this is, or this is how big this is.
Yes. Yes. It's difficult because Amazon, the main image, they require that the image takes up all the space. So everything looks good. And I've had a lot of jewelry clients over the years. Okay. And jewelry is the worst because, it looks fantastic in the picture and then you
Oh, yeah.
get it and it's your diamond is minuscule. And so you get a lot of complaints that way. That's one of the challenges.
Yeah, always put a reference picture. Like what we did with this particular client, they sell a kit,
Hmm.
and the kit has 14 pieces
Hmm.
in it. And so, I mean, at the beginning, I was actually part of the whole product development in terms of how it came to be what it is today. And it was all about putting in a box and whatever. But the box is huge. So I said, we have to put a reference picture. You know what we did? We put the box right next to a chair because the box is as big as a chair.
Right, right. That's great. Great.
So it doesn't matter how many, because also another thing is people can second guess. See, if you put like such a huge dimension,
Hmm.
people may say, oh, it must be a mistake.
Yes.
And the
Yes.
next thing is this thing shows up at their door and they can't even lift it. So the funny thing is, one day I said to them, when you're doing FBA, how many units do you fit in a box when you're shipping FBA? And he goes, one. Every piece is one box.
Wow.
It's a pretty significant product, and that's
Yes.
why it's expensive. So
Mhm.
anyway, it's fascinating. So I mean, you know, for those listening, that you have the methodology. There's nothing stopping you. Just go and get your reviews or get your competition's reviews, turn it into who uses it for what, and then if they are satisfied, and the other one
Exactly.
dissatisfied, and go to work, right?
And but the key is ask questions. Okay. And so because there's a lot of resources out there which will put the information together for you. And at the end of the day, you're not getting deep enough. And so what you need to do is you get the results and you say, well, what do the results tell me? And what do I do next? How do I dig deeper? Whether it's focusing on different segments of your audience or how they're using the product or different colors or how can I break it down into smaller bite sizes so that I can really, get a meaningful conclusion? Because again, as I said before, typically, just like what you said, the thing people love most about the product is going to be the thing that people hate most about the product. And the only difference is it's the different type of customer.
Yeah. And also, being the data person, I will say that when you do this analysis and then you find out exactly what to do and then decide what your action items are, first of all, don't go implementing them all at once.
Yes.
Number one, change one thing at a time.
Yes.
And then before making any change, go download your business reports and save it for that day. And then what you want to do is you want to periodically see how your conversion rates are. That's the unit session percentage that you would get, and download the one that is at child ASIN level. And that's going to give you your unit session percentage, and get your data right at the beginning of making the changes, and then look at it over a week, every week.
Yep.
And don't look at it like every week in terms of 1 week data, and then do calendar weeks. So what is week 10,
Yes.
week 11, week 12? So that way you have an idea of how your conversion rates are trending based on the changes. And the
Yes.
other thing that I would say is, David, do you ever use experiments alongside this?
Yes.
So share with us how you apply the experiments.
Now it's actually getting a lot easier now because now they're allowing you to use multiple elements at the same time. And so we're just starting to use that to do more than one thing at once. In the past, you were just limited to one element. So you would either do the image or you would do either the product title or the bullets or the A+. And, now they're allowing you to do multiple things. We've not actually done that yet, used that yet. We actually have some that we're doing right now, and we don't have results.
Okay. So for those who are brand registered sellers, they have
Yes.
access to manage experiments. And if you haven't yet checked it out, definitely a good one. So yeah, I mean, you could be running an experiment for the main image. You could be running an experiment for the title, for the bullets, for the A+. You could be doing so. But within each and every one of those, you can run all of them at the same time, and then have two versions. Just don't go putting too many of them. Just have two variations of each, and then let's see how Amazon will perform those.
Amazon will only let you do two. They will limit you in terms of what you can do. But yes.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Conversion is, I always say this. There are two magic bullets for success on Amazon. It's very simple. How to increase your click-through rate and increase your conversion rate.
Yes.
And then you'll be fine.
Yes.
Of course, that's easier said than done, but that's where you dig down.
But once you understand the customer, it becomes a lot easier, because once you have a good customer profile in terms of who you're appealing to, it changes everything. It just makes it so much simpler, because I think the reason that people don't spend more time on conversion is it's overwhelming, and they don't understand the customer. And once you understand the customer, things become really obvious.
David, I just had a wicked idea, because recently I had I'm trying to remember where I heard it, but oh yes, it was a seller, a 9-figure seller. So what he said was, you can use the Amazon influencer program, and unlike Amazon Associates program, so somebody who is in the Amazon influencer program, you can have a one-on-one relationship, and you can hire them to produce videos for you, pay them per video, and then have them put those videos where you want.
Right.
Now they earn a commission out of that. That doesn't come out of your pocket.
Mhm.
That's not the only way he uses it. What he does is he takes exactly what you described, what people are satisfied with, and how they use it.
Mhm.
And he gets these Amazon influencers to create videos and upload on his product pages.
Yep.
Plus, he takes the competition's negative reviews
Mhm.
and then pays these Amazon influencers $100 a video, and then he gets them to put it on his competition's page because they can, right?
Yes. Mhm.
So he says, well, that's not necessarily, but you know who's doing this?
Mhm.
Who's already doing this?
No.
The Chinese.
Oh, yes. Well, that I would expect. Yes. Yes.
So it's already happening. So of course, the reason why Amazon influencers would produce a video and put on a page would be to make a commission out of it.
Right.
And
But they
they
don't make
actually,
it if it's a negative one.
well, they don't make a negative one. So what happens? You pay the influencer for the video.
Yes.
And you know how much these influencers make per video? About $150 a month.
Right.
And they have all these numbers. I had one of them on the show, and he was giving all the metrics in terms of, you know, I usually try to get X number of videos very quickly if you're starting. This is how many you want to get. And then once you get to, then you want to churn, because you have a churn, you have this. And the idea is to have 15 videos per product page.
Wow.
You can have 15. And after 15, there is no more slots, or
Right.
at least Amazon doesn't show, or I'm not sure exactly, but he used the word 15. So he said, of course, nobody would make money out of making a negative video. So you get paid for making that video. And they tell
Right.
you where to put it.
Right. Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah. So there's all kinds of ways to do it. Well, you know, we can, like I said, conversion is my favorite subject. So let's get to know you a little bit, David. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Now, I have to say that being in technology for many years doesn't mean you are old, you know.
Okay.
Because it's only a few years, the whole technology thing. I mean, of course, I'm not talking about the computer
It's true.
revolution. I'm talking about internet. This is not really that old.
Yes.
How did you end up being in this space? What was the appeal to you?
Well, quite honestly, you know, I was really involved in e-commerce, and e-commerce was getting much, much more difficult. And then I started getting involved in Amazon, and Amazon was so easy. It was really a no-brainer. It was really easy to be successful on Amazon at that point. And now it's changed, and now it's evolved, but it's taken a much longer for Amazon to get difficult than it was for e-commerce, because the conversion rates on Amazon are so high. You know, whereas conversion rates on a website are typically 2 to 5%. Conversion rates on Amazon can be 10 to 30%.
Well, I mean, because, when you bring somebody to your website, you're bringing them off the web, and they're not necessarily shoppers, but anybody who comes to Amazon, they're looking to buy something. But my question to you is, how did you end up in e-commerce in general? Why not, it could be in any other business?
Actually, I started my career as a copywriter, as a direct mail copywriter. And I sort of got frustrated because I would create something that was much better than someone else's and that they would win. And then I realized that really, it had nothing to do with the copy. It had to do with the audience. And so I began to move more into analytics. Then I moved to e-commerce, and then I evolved into Amazon.
So you were writing copy, and then that led you to paying more attention to why that copy was being paid attention to. But in order for somebody to move into the analytics area, they need to have some kind of a numbers-oriented background. So is that your background?
No.
How did that happen?
When you work in large companies, you have to develop a core competency in dealing with numbers. So, you figure it out.
I see. Okay, but now you're running your own company. You have
Yes.
been for many years, but a switch then occurred. So you were working in a company, and then you became an entrepreneur.
Yes.
How did that switch occur?
I was telling some people about the success that we were having on with Amazon, and they asked me to sort of help them out, and it just kind of fed on itself. And then I eventually realized, what, this is a lot more interesting, the Amazon business. So then I decided, what, it makes sense to really focus full time, because this is where the opportunity is.
So, I mean, as you know, being an entrepreneur is a whole different ballgame, because you eat what you kill, right? And at the same time, what is driving you is usually not necessarily the money. Tell me why you do what you do.
Because I like to help people be successful, and I like to help people identify opportunities that they may not be thinking about. And I think what happens is in this business, so much of it is very tips and tricks focused. But when you look at things for the whole picture, that's how you really make big improvements.
What is the benefit? I mean, other than the compensation, but that's secondary. What gets you excited about helping somebody?
Because you have so many different types of problems, and different challenges, and each company has their own set of challenges and opportunities, and being able to convert those challenges into an opportunity is really exciting.
Yeah, it's almost like a rush you get out of doing something, right? So it's something that they never thought about, and there's always those moments where you see, oh, this is really working. Well, it's great. I mean, all my guests, mostly, they are all entrepreneurs. They started their companies, and they all have the same thing in common. Nobody's doing what they are doing for money. It's because they either get a satisfaction out of it, because they were denied satisfaction when they were growing up or whatever. And it usually goes way back to the beginning of how you started. You start your life one way and then it goes another.
Sure.
Well, so this was great. So tell us, how can people reach you? Give us your contact information.
Sure, they can reach me on LinkedIn, David Dwek, D-W-E-K. They can email me at david@marketsharegrowth.com. Those are probably the two best ways of reaching me.
We'll put this information with your episode, when the episode goes live, so people have access to it. So
Great.
It's a great conversation, David. So,
Great.
like I said, conversion rate, it's one of the magic bullets, and you improve that, you'll always be laughing.
If anyone wants to reach out and just kind of send me an ASIN, I'd be happy to sort of look at it and just kind of show them sort of in terms of the process that we use to get to where I think, to the point that they can turn these reviews into an action plan.
Oh, that's very nice of you. I'm sure you'll hear. So we have quite a few people tune in every week, and I'm sure you'll hear from them. Thank you for being here, David.
Thanks so much.
Before I go, a quick reminder to say goodbye to your cash flow problems and claim your extra $1,500 when you qualify for $25,000 or more in funding. Go to www.runviably.com/legends and start your application today. Thank you, and this brings us to the end of another episode. I'll see you next.
If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review the episode, and share it with someone you think would benefit from it too.